Yeah, so I am one of the lucky ones who've been able to see Hadestown multiple times. It's easily my favorite musical. And
Mm.
they had a pro shot that came out this past Friday, and it is absolutely spectacular and beat Hamilton as the most revenue, box office revenue coming from a pro shot on opening weekend. So it was originally at 9.7, $9.8 million. It was originally set to do that, but that was actually underreported when they wound up doing the full report. I think it was like 10.1 or $10.2 million, which is goes over what Hamilton got whenever they released theirs. Which is fascinating. I love both of them, but I'm obviously a huge Hadestown fan, and this pro shot was absolutely fantastic. It had shots I was not prepared for. I was shocked at how good it was. Like, I loved the play, so I knew I was
Mm.
gonna come in biased, and even I was shocked by how, like, absolutely spectacular it is. The team that did it, bravo. It had views from the back. There's, for those who don't know, and in the center there is a spinning wheel, and then at the core of that is something that spins but also goes up and down as you're going up and down into Hades. And we were able to look down into it like it's a pit, and
Hmm.
you're also able to look at it coming up as they were showing up, coming back into Hades. Some really, really beautiful moments, some beautiful close-ups. You got to see all the main characters emote. It was absolutely, like, just absolutely breathtaking. If you're listening to this and you've either watched the play and love it or you've never seen it, I highly recommend you watch it. It is going to be on Apple TV. They already have it on pre-order. Speaking of Apple TV having taste,
Hmm.
and I highly recommend. It was absolutely beautiful. The music's always fantastic, but I went to see the original cast in London, which is where they did the pro shot, but I wasn't able to see Patrick Page as Hades because he tore his Achilles, and so he didn't attend a lot of the public performances, but he's in the pro shot. He's wearing this like bedazzled boot, black boot, which was and he has a cane and stuff, so you'll be able to see
Ah.
that. But it was absolutely fantastic, but I think it goes to the heart of what we wanna see. Like, there's a lot of anti-intellectual content right now. There's a lot of performative, ideas of like, "Oh, you have to read this and you have to read that," and all this other stuff, but I think that it says a lot about what we need is accessibility. I was raised in an area that was not near New York, so I didn't get to see a lot of Broadway shows until I
Mhm.
was older, but I lived on pro shots on PBS, on my local PBS station. I've watched, like, so many pro shots, and so, um, having accessibility to these kind of shows who can't go to London, who can't go to New York, or maybe they could, but they can't afford like a $300 ticket. I think it's huge. I think people need to be able to have access to the Odyssey, and they need to have access to Shakespeare, to Hadestown. I think it really matters. And so I'm hoping that the studios will get the idea that they need to have more pro shots of everything. I very much a big fan of that. I think there's definitely demand for it. And just like I said, the accessibility of people who would love to have these shows but would never see it any other way. People deserve the ability to be able to see these shows.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think what stands out to me again is that this is another I guess story based on like Greek myth and
Yeah.
like how cool is it that like you're right, like at a time when like AI or this whole idea that like nobody reads anymore, and like what's gonna happen to like art and we have these two like examples of people who is just showing that people do want to see this. They want to see like good art in all its forms, right? In an IMAX theater, but also in a theater if they can like afford to go. Um, and you know, this whole idea that was like, younger generations don't want to see, theater or they don't want to go to the movie theaters. And it's just like so wrong, to think about when, the proof is it's there, right? Like all, theaters are back, like, in a way that they haven't been in a really long time, mostly because young people are going to the theaters, right?
Yeah.
And then now you have, this and, I've heard about it, but I've never seen it. But now I'm
You
like,
have to
super interested
go.
in,
You have to go.
watching it. Yeah.
It's
But
so
like,
beautiful. The music is fantastic.
mhm,
It feels like you're in a New Orleans jazz club.
mhm. Mm,
Like, it's a
that's
whole
cool.
vibe. This
Yeah.
the You have the musicians on stage like they're at a club.
Oh.
It's I highly recommend. The music's fantastic. Everyone is talented as can be. Cast is wonderful. Like,
Mhm.
it's a beautiful, beautiful story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It also reminds me of like how we're starting to see so many like concert like movies
Yeah.
come out, right? Concert
Yeah.
documentaries like Oasis is having one coming out based on one of
Yep.
the nights that we were there.
Yep.
And like how cool is that it's like, okay, we know that like actually going to the thing is gonna be super expensive, right? Like tickets are gonna be
Yeah.
super expensive, but like here's another way that we are making it accessible to people. And
Yep.
it's funny because it's like, so often we think about this as being like a money grab, like, oh,
Yeah.
here we go. The band just wants to make more money off of like, this concert that
Yeah.
they did. And it's like, well, yes, but a lot of people can't go to the concerts, right? Like
Yeah.
whether they just don't live in an area that they didn't go to, like the tickets are too expensive, right? Um, I think it's great that we have, this other option for people, to go to, right? Like the Eras tour, came out with the documentary. Oasis has this. There's the Katy Perry ones. Like if every artist is coming out with this as like a thing that we can expect from them, it's like, okay, maybe you don't go to the concert, but then you will go to the movie. Maybe it'll have the second order
Yeah.
effect of like people not having to film inside the
Yep.
concerts, right? Or
Yep.
FaceTime people, right? We talked about this recently because Phoebe Bridgers said that she's gonna not allow phones to be in her in the concert while she's playing, right? And people were
Yeah.
like, "Well, but I use that to call like my friend to who can't afford to go there." And it's like, "Okay, but now you can see it much better in a theater," you know?
Yeah.
And so I like to, have that option. I love when we have options for people, like
Yeah.
that's one of those things that, especially I think in terms of like marketers, like what are these ways that we can offer another way for people to participate with us if they
Yeah.
can't do like the event, they can't come to the concert, they can't come to, um the event itself, like what is
Yeah.
it that we can do, right? And I love seeing, not just these, but during the World Cup, right, like there were several movie theaters that opened up to play the games, at the movie theaters. A couple of F1 races have also done that, where it's like you have that there. And I love this like thinking outside the box of like, how do we get people to participate together,
Yeah.
right? At a time when
Yeah.
like people are lonely and they want to meet other people and like are willing to come out. I think like that's one of the
Yeah.
things that like so many people here in America were surprised that like people want to watch soccer, like
Yeah.
not just that, but like you want to watch soccer at a bar because you're with other people. And like,
Yep.
why is it that Argentina and like France and Spain are having like block parties where their entire, plazas are closed out watching with a huge, screen for people to watch the games? Like, why can't
Yeah.
we have that here? Right. Like, I think that was part of like what people were complaining about. This like FIFA said, no, we're not going to have these like fan, centers and people can't
Yeah.
tailgate,
Yeah.
and then like we should be thinking of more ways to get people to participate with each other as like a way to like bring people together, and like
Yeah.
have that be like a way of uniting people
Yep.
and getting them to participate, not just because you're trying to make money, but because you, like I'm talking about earlier, you want to raise the boats of the industry, right? Like
Yeah.
if you want to make soccer be a thing here in America, you need to get people to like
Yeah.
watching it, right? And they
Yeah.
might not want to watch the game, but they'll certainly go to a bar and like hang out
Yeah.
with like a bunch of people and, have that be the experience.
Yeah.
Um, so what are other ways that like we can do this as like a way to promote, our like, company, our brands, of bringing people together at a time when like, there's a dearth of that.
Yeah. Well, I think we want it. I think going back to, like, human needs, we want these, like, monocultural moments where we're
Mhm.
all talking about the same thing.
Totally.
We saw it with NASA Artemis 2. We saw it with the
Mhm.
World Cup, where
Mhm.
whether you are in person or you're on Twitter or you're on LinkedIn or you're on Instagram or Threads, wherever you are online,
Mhm.
you see other people experiencing something that you were
Mhm.
also paying attention to, and there's something really beautiful about that.
Yeah.
It gives you proximity without it impacting distance. That you
Mhm.
know that, like, I'm watching this and there's millions of other people who care about this at the
Mhm.
exact same moment. I feel like the world needed the World Cup in so many ways, and I don't wanna sound like Pollyanna or saccharine, but it
No.
really did. It really
Yeah.
did. Like, you have people coming together, celebrating cultures, realizing that, like,
Mhm.
we're not that different.
Mhm.
We wanna have fun, we wanna have good times, we wanna celebrate our favorite players and our favorite teams. I think it was just really beautiful to have people on site and on social, really kind of celebrating and talking about the same things. I think it does something really good to us to be able to
Mhm.
feel like we belong, and that really is what it comes down to is you feel like you belong because you're paying attention to the same things that those people are paying attention to, and it being something positive too, like,
Mhm.
you are belonging and paying attention to something that is unprecedented in a good way.
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah.
rage bait, it's not bad, it's like, this is
Right.
good stuff. Yeah, there's something really powerful about that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it kind of helped that America isn't that into soccer because it allowed so many of the smaller teams to like get their flowers, right? Like I
Yeah,
just saw today that the goalie for Cape Verde was signed with like Miami, and like
I
what a
love
feel
that
good
for
story,
him.
right?
I
Like the
love
fact
that.
that like this came from that, or Cape Verde, that they got all their, all this attention,
All their tourism is
Egypt.
going up too, it's awesome.
Mhm. Like, it kind of allowed everybody to come together in a way, and it's like, and it's funny because at the time I was, like, thinking it's like, Americans love an underdog story, but it was like it felt like it was the world, cheering on all these teams and coming
Yeah,
together in a way that, like, it hadn't really before, and I mean, as much as I wanna say "rah, rah, rah" to America, like, I really do think that it was because Americans were paying attention. We
yeah,
have, ownership of all the social medias and all like the, TV networks that like everybody pays attention to. And so like
yeah,
when Americans were like in on it, it's just like, okay, we're all talking about the same thing. And it's not like the world is off talking about a different topic.
yeah,
And so I think that for that reason, plus the fact that, FIFA made almost like $15 billion from it, in 2038, we might get the World Cup back. And I'm like celebrating that because it's like, think again, like now that we'll have more time of Americans being a little bit more into soccer
yeah,
and realizing, hey, remember the good time that we had last time? It could be so much better if we have more teams. And like maybe
yeah,
this time the cities will push back and be like, no, we do want to have like fan events that everybody can come to. Um, I think like that should be like a huge lesson from people that like there's there is this whole and like I understand, right? It's like it's a business. They want to make as much money as possible and commoditizing everything as much as you can do. Um but by including more people, it ends up bringing more money because like
yeah,
all the bars are making money, all the restaurants are making money, like all these things like it are flowing back into the community in ways that like you can't do if you're just closing off the event to the people
yeah,
that are going to the stadium, and then everybody else is just watching it at home on the TV by
yeah,
themselves, right? And I think that that should be a huge lesson here. Like I'm wondering what's going to happen when like the Olympics are here in 28 in LA in 28, right? And then if we do have it in 2038, like what more we're doing to like encourage people to come together, because
yeah,
it really seemed as if like Philadelphia ended up learning, or like Boston also earning like we're gonna close down the areas here, let people come out and like participate
yeah,
with everybody else instead of like allowing cars to continue driving through the city, like
yeah,
so I think like that should be like a lesson of like how do we open it up to get more people to participate, especially
mhm,
for like you already have like the hardcore fans that are going to be there, but like the ones that you kind of have to convince a little bit more. It's like how do you get them to participate? And those are
yeah,
things that I think all of us like as marketers should be like thinking about, because it's like yes, you're always selling to like your core demo, of course, but you also need to start bringing in new fans, right, in order to get them involved, and eventually be more into like your brand,
mhm, yeah,
so that's kind of a lesson for me from this, like what are ways that we can try to be more inclusive of people.
yeah,
One of the things I've talked about before is how Taylor Swift is like a master of this, where it's like you have these like separate windows of like when people come to participate. It's like you have the Eras tour that people kind of come to, but you also film that, and then you have that come out in the theaters. Like she had the deal with AMC to go direct to them and like have them like showing her, showing it on IMAX and like the theater. And then you have like, it going on to Disney where it's like, more accessible, right? So it's like you're offering levels of accessibility to people depending on where they're at, whether
right,
that's, fandom of like, as a hardcore fan, I will go to like her concert, of course, or I'm not that into her, but I'll watch, when it comes out on Disney Plus,
mhm,
um, or because they can't afford it, right? So these
yeah.
are like things that we should be thinking about of how do we make things inclusive of people and find them where they're at. And then also of like, how do you create new fans like
Yeah.
each time that you're trying to like build, your brand? It's like you can't just continue going after like the hardcore fans. It's like you have to have levels of people that you're willing to like bring in some way. And so like with soccer, it's like, you get to you have the fans obviously go to the stadium, the ones that are willing to, pay that amount of money to like go there because they actually care, love it, love the sport. But then you have like the community involvement of like, I think we could have done better of like, one thing that was like a lot of fun was like realizing that in America, pretty much every country had some sort of like community that like supported them because like the
Yeah.
people, the immigrants are from there. So it's like, how
Yeah.
do you highlight that a little bit more in order to give them more support of like, hey, maybe we should have people go to these areas and like party with them,
Yeah.
So those are ways to like, I would love for like, these big brands and like companies to be thinking about like what they're doing to be able to get more fans and like grow everything.
Yeah. No, I love that. Completely agree.
Awesome. Any ones from you? You can bring it back to Hadestown.
I think for me, it always comes back down to the human
Yeah.
and what we need and what we're feeling and stuff like that. I think that a lot of people, you were talking about how do you build new fans. It's just like with customers, your current customers are the best ticket to create new customers.
Mm-hmm.
The current fans are the best ones to create new fans. If you look at how the Scottish fans came over and completely wooed Boston to the point where
Mm-hmm.
like Boston and Glasgow are now sister cities, which
I
I love.
know.
Then you also have the Norwegian fans and like them
Yeah.
rowing and stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
no one was a better ambassador for their countries than the fans that came over, and then
Mm-hmm.
the Americans fell absolutely in love with them, and by extension, fell in love with the game, and so
Mm-hmm.
I think it says a lot about how there's something about going back to the real, going back to everything that we've talked
Yeah.
about, the sense of belonging and actually having real experiences with people, actually getting to meet people from different countries and
Yeah.
not just assuming who they are based on what the news tells you or what some politician tells you that you should be
Yeah.
thinking about them, to actually meet them and realize who they are and what they are. I think that was a really great celebration of, and we saw it in Canada, we saw it in Mexico, we saw it in the
Mm-hmm.
US, like we saw it in all three of the host countries. I think it shows something that we so desperately want to connect. Like
Yeah.
we want to have fun together. It like there was so many things and it was like everyone's having a party.
Yeah.
It's a great time. And I think that that says a lot about how at its core, humanity is good, and
Yeah.
we wanna connect, we wanna have experiences together, and I think when you go back to, like, the core parts of what humanity is, it's everything we've talked about today. It's storytelling, it's
Yeah.
flaws, it's connection, it's humanity, it's feeling like you belong in a world where you don't trust what you see on your screen, like,
Yeah.
it's all of that comes together for you to realize that, like, I these experiences, these in-person moments, these opportunities to go see things that everyone else is watching at the same time, it makes us feel like we're a part of something bigger than ourselves, and that's a really calming and safe feeling for people.
Agree, agree. Yeah, I think, like you said earlier, this whole episode ended up being about quality storytelling and like humanity, right? Where it's
Yeah,
um, getting people to participate and feel like what gets them to actually show up and like
yeah,
participate, right? I think people are becoming more discerning about what they're willing to spend money on, right?
yes,
They're willing to spend on something that I feel took a lot of work, to do, like the Odyssey. Whereas like Moana, like CGI, I think that's part of what's also a problem with like Doomsday and like, the previous like Supergirl and, Fantastic Four and all those. Like it doesn't feel as if, the love of the game was there, right? Like I feel like
yeah,
Nolan felt it, and then all the actors. And I feel like that's what people want to reward now, right?
yeah,
And, with Hadestown, that's like the same thing where it's like, seeing the story and like the art and the craft that goes into it. Like, I want to reward that. Like, the way that you're
yeah,
talking about it makes me feel like this is actually a thing that like would get me to spend my money, you
yeah,
know? And then, going back to, the, fan festivals and events, like, people want to feel as if the amount of money that they're spending isn't a waste of time or
yeah,
isn't a fire festival, you know, where
Yep.
it's like you're going and you're being sold a product, you know, or an event that doesn't exist because all
Yeah.
they care about is taking as much money as they can from you, you know?
Yeah.
I think part of what also made the World Cup work was that like there was so much tension and so much drama going on the
There
football
were
pitch. And
so
even the
many
people
great
that didn't
matches. Oh my
understand,
gosh.
right? Like
Yeah.
even the people that didn't understand the game, you know, could understand the passion of the fans that they were seeing
Yeah.
on TV or like in the bars with them, you know? And like that energy is palpable. And I feel like people want energy. They so much want energy. Like everything that you've mentioned, right? Like Artemis 2, like the energy of being like, oh my God, we just sent these people to space. You know, like
Yep.
how fucking cool is that, right?
Yep.
Here where it's like, you know, the conferences of like, wow, like Ryan Gosling, you know, came out and all these like little Easter eggs of like this property that like only those people that really know, you know? So it's like you feel like you're getting access to things. These are all things I think that like, you know, marketers should be looking at. Because it's like I feel like so many of us are defaulting back to like we want to pay for things that are worth it. We
Yeah.
want our energy, you know, to be reciprocated, and we want what we put in to like matter, you know?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so many companies are just not doing that.
Yeah.
And they're just like missing out on people or just assuming that like, oh, well, we're the default, you know? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
one of the things that like this reminds me of is the Coca-Cola rebrand that just like happened, which I thought like actually worked, you know? And so many people were kind of like comparing it to the whole Marlboro, you know, font. And I thought like, but that's also a riff off the fact that Diet Coke, which is like their most popular soda right now, is called a fridge cigarette for so many people. And
It
so they're
is.
like, you know, associating it with that. So it shows
Yeah.
that they're like thinking about people,
Yeah.
their fans, you know?
Yeah. They pay attention. Yeah.
Right, right. Whereas, you know, the Cracker Barrel rebrand, which happened a year ago, and the CEO just resigned from, which honestly, I think I didn't realize she was
I'm
still there.
shocked I'm shocked she lasted this long. But
I know, right?
there's a difference between I think that that's a great example if you pair it with YC.
Uh-huh.
It's if you like completely dismiss and alienate your current market because you want to be something you're not.
Hmm.
That's exactly what Cracker Barrel did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
exactly why
So
it burned.
exactly. And it's funny because it's like Red Lobster also, was it this week or last week, announced that they are also modernizing their restaurants. And
Mhm.
I'm like, did you not see what happened to Cracker Barrel? Like, why would you do that? Like your brand identity, like you can't just get rid of it for supposed fans that you think are going to be there
Yeah.
when by eliminating your current fans, you know?
Yep.
And I think, you know, some brands are too quick to just like honestly, so when the Coca-Cola thing first came out, I was like, "Oh my God, are they changing the font? Like the Coca-Cola font?" And I was like, they wouldn't do that. And then no, thank God they didn't because that would have been like
Yeah.
one of the stupidest things that they could have done. But the fact that they just, you know, added it to it, I'm like, okay, this makes sense to me. I like
Yeah.
it. Good for them. Like, I
Yeah.
think it's like the first rebrand that like, I mean, is it a full rebrand? It's like an addition to the brand.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, that hasn't gotten completely, you know, shat on.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.